Hey guys, I'm Victoria and welcome back to FemHead. Today, I want to talk about low progesterone. So it's something that I've been meaning to talk about for months and months now, but I just never got around to it, so let's talk about it today. I noticed the issue first arise 6 or so months ago with spotting around my menstrual phase, as well as a shorter luteal phase, but it was never something that I really was too concerned about until 2 or so months ago when I was like, okay, this is probably something that needs to get addressed ASAP. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I can't clinically diagnose myself with anything, nor clinically diagnose any of you with anything, but I have self-concluded for myself that it is a progesterone issue. And here's what happened that has led me to believe this. So like I said, it all started with spotting. For a long time, I have spotted around my period and never really worried about it because it wasn't that much spotting and it was red. 2 cycles or so ago, I started noticing a change. The spotting started to become longer. It started to happen sooner, well in advance before my actual period started. It started getting browner in color. And then this past period, I had 3 days of brown spotting leading up to my period. The first day of my period where my temperature dropped was actually brown spotting. And then 3 days of a normal period flow, but that was also a darker burgundy color, followed by 3 more days of brown spotting. Now, I'm not going to make you do the math, and I don't know if I said that exactly right, but that added up to 7 days of brown spotting and 3 days of period, which equals a 10-day period, which I have no business having because I normally have a 3 to 5 day period. So 10 days is not good with a lot of brown spotting. So this isn't the most ideal. And then on top of that, this past cycle, the cycle I'm currently on, I started having brown spotting, very, very light brown spotting from day 18 to day 22. And I was like, ooh, crap, that's not good. And this all kind of centers around having a healthy luteal phase. So your luteal phase is the phase in between ovulation and the start of your period. And a normal luteal phase is 11 to 14 days. That's what you want to shoot for. And not this current cycle, but the previous cycle, the one where I had a lot of spotting around my period, my luteal phase was only 9 days. And then this cycle, my luteal phase was no good because I spotted for 4 or 5 days of it. I'm going to be starting my period soon, so we'll see how that all goes about. But anyways, you want a healthy luteal phase, and my luteal phase is not in the best shape right now. I've actually been researching progesterone for a while now. I've had a very short luteal phase for a long time, and so I wanted to learn more about it and keep my eye on it. If you can recall progesterone's role in your menstrual cycle, it goes a little something like this. So once the egg is released from the follicle in your ovary, that follicle then becomes a corpus luteum and starts emitting progesterone. And the role of this progesterone is to, build your endometrial lining to be thick and juicy and supple for a fertilized egg to travel from the fallopian tube into the uterus and bed itself in, if it is fertilized, obviously. And while I'm not trying to get pregnant right now, progesterone is very vital in having a healthy pregnancy. Because of this, progesterone, it keeps the endometrial lining intact long enough for the fertilized egg to then embed itself. And once it kind of gets that signal that the egg has embedded itself, it will live past its lifespan of 10 or so days, and continue emitting progesterone, keep your uterine lining in place to support a pregnancy until the placenta can take over progesterone production, and I think that's around 10 weeks gestation. There's other terms for low progesterone. It can be a progesterone deficiency, luteal phase deficiency, corpus luteum deficiency, things like that. It all kind of points to a problem with the progesterone and not enough of it coming from the corpus luteum to support your uterine lining. And you may be thinking, oh, hey, I'm not trying to get pregnant. If my body is automatically making it impossible for me to get pregnant, that's a great thing. And I thought this for a hot second, just a hot second. But then I realized your menstrual cycle is an indicator to your overall health. And if there was something off there, that meant there was something else off in my body, and I didn't want to mess around with that. And in my research into progesterone these past couple of weeks, I noticed two things that kind of stood out to me. Well, three things, but two things. If you have lower progesterone, it can cause you to feel more tired. And I have been exhausted, not exhausted, but just like exhausted these past 2 months. And that's not normal for me. And then on top of that, it can contribute to a lower sex drive. And libido has been something that I've been dealing with since going on hormonal birth control. So those were both like, oh, well, you know, light bulb, clicking on, it makes sense. And there were plenty of other symptoms that go along with low progesterone that I didn't want to mess around with. You know, headaches, migraines, mood swings, anxiety and depression, which I was dealing with a lot of anxiety and blues a couple of weeks ago, if you can recall. So I didn't want to make that any worse than it had been back then, as well as hot flashes, irregular cycles, and vaginal dryness. None of that stuff is good. And then on top of that, if your hormones are out of whack and you do have a lower progesterone, estrogen can end up, you know, kind of taking a dominant role. And then on top of having low progesterone symptoms, if you have estrogen dominant, it causes a whole slew of other bad things that I don't want to take any part in. Things like weight gain, PMS, heavy bleeding, fibrocystic breasts, fibroids, endometriosis, gallbladder issues, and thyroid dysfunction. All things that I want no part in. So while you may say like, well, hey, great, my body's automatically making it impossible for me to get pregnant, are all these other horrible symptoms worth it? And the answer is always no. And so now you may be wondering, okay, Victoria, so you have low progesterone, what are you doing about it? I am not a doctor, so this is just me sharing what I am doing. It doesn't mean that it's going to heal your issues or that you even have a progesterone issue, and what works for me may not work for you. So take all of this information that I'm sharing with you with a grain of salt. So two things that I'm taking currently are zinc, and I'm using magnesium oil. Zinc plays a role in a few organs that deal with progesterone, like your pituitary gland and your ovaries. A zinc deficiency has been shown to disrupt a normal ovulation in mice. So I wanted to first look at vegan sources of zinc that I could make sure I was getting enough of. So vegan sources of zinc are beans, legumes, nuts, seeds, and oats. Magnesium, on the other hand, is something that I see people talk about prescribing or have been prescribed a lot for, you know, hormonal issues or menstrual cycle issues. Magnesium helps control the pituitary gland, and if that's not being supported, it messes with things like the follicle stimulating hormone, the luteinizing hormone, and the thyroid stimulating hormone, all things that are very important. And then on top of that, magnesium does things like it regulates cortisol, which you need for stress management, balance your blood sugar level, it supports your thyroid function, it acts as a sleep aid, and helps create hormones. And the vegan sources of magnesium are dark leafy greens, nuts, seeds, whole grains, avocados, bananas, dried fruit, and dark chocolate. This is probably only in the past week that I've been consistently doing this. I have a zinc supplement, and then I also have magnesium oil. So I take zinc usually every morning or around lunchtime. This one is take daily with food. And there's one day that I took on an empty stomach and I ended up like dry heaving into the sink because it made me so nauseous. So take zinc with food, or read the label and make sure you do it correctly. And then magnesium oil, once a day I will just take this and I'll rub it on my arms, my stomach, and my legs. And then the final thing that I got that I haven't started taking yet is Vitex. I just got this in the mail the other day. And the reason I haven't started it yet is you're supposed to start taking it at the beginning of your follicular phase, and I am at the end of my luteal phase right now, so I will wait till my next cycle. Vitex is not something you want to mess around with. It is a strong herb supplement. Vitex has been shown to inhibit the follicle stimulating hormone while supporting the luteinizing hormone, which in turn supports ovulation and progesterone. It lengthens shorter luteal phase, and it helps support the formation of a follicle, and therefore that becomes the corpus luteum that emits the progesterone, so it's a very good herb. So that is what I have to say about progesterone deficiency. I will update you guys along the way with how this is all working. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!